Crazy.
2011, all of Mexico stood still as they watched a video of cartel workers Felix Gomez Garcia and his uncle Barnabas Gomez getting dismembered with a chainsaw.
What the
Cartels are known for their extreme violence, from getting beaten to death to being burnt alive. Here are some of the most brutal cartel execution methods.
Oh wow.
El Guiso, the stew.
Yo, the Mexican cartel is that dangerous for real? Like, why? Like, what? Like, what's in they fossil flakes that make them this angry, bro? Like, we come in peace. Bro, man.
January 22nd, 2009.
I was 9.
One of the most wanted criminals in Mexico, Santiago Meza Lopez, was captured by the Mexican army in the Baja Seasons neighborhood of Tijuana, in a house where he had been partying too much for several days, commonly known as El Pozolero, which means the pozole maker.
What that
He
mean?
was known for being a special cleanup agent for cartels, and he's believed to have stirred and dissolved over 300 bodies in acid at his Ensenada ranch about 70 miles south of the border.
What? He putting bodies in acid? That sound like some Batman villain type shit. Like, what the fuck?
He gained notoriety for being among the first to pioneer the El Guiso method. El Guiso basically means the soup. And basically, you put a person into a large oil drum, and then you fill it with gasoline or acid before setting it on fire to create a furnace used to burn victims, most commonly referred to as making guiso or stew. The originator of this technique remains unknown, but a few Mexican cartels have become infamous for using this preferred execution method.
Yo, it sound like they trying to make some soup out of niggas, bro. Yo, that's the most way to get deleted, bro.
To prepare this deadly concoction, you fill a huge barrel with water and then concentrated sulfuric acid, causing it to boil and spit dangerously hot liquid. Once it's ready, victims will be dunked in while they're still breathing. And this insane method of torture would put these victims through excruciating pain, ultimately leading them to a slow death.
Man, it's stressing me out, man. Yo, this nigga, it's only 1 minute in. Bro, this nigga is evil. Oh my god.
Born to poor parents in mid-April 1964 in Sinaloa, Mexico, Santiago Meza Lopez struggled with poverty from a very young age. At 13, he would work construction until the 90s, where he moved to Tijuana in search of a better life, until his sister was raped by members of a criminal organization.
Damn, bro.
Seeking revenge, Lopez joined the Tijuana cartel through his childhood friend El Teo. As time went on, Santiago eventually climbed the ranks, and a few years later, his efforts finally caught the attention of the boss, Efrain Perez. One fateful day, Perez entrusted him with the grim task of disposing bodies, offering him a weekly payment of $600.
Weekly payment $600? Well, that's not bad. Even 1990 is not even bad too. The 90s, $600.
You work on Oregon or you work on shopping?
He would liquefy his victims in a very effective and unique style. He would dunk the cadavers in a tub filled with acid and sodium hydroxide while stirring the bodies. You'd keep this mixture on high heat for at least 8 hours until the bodies finally disintegrated. Certain parts of the body don't get dissolved, like teeth or nails, maybe even small pieces of bone, which Santiago would eventually throw into a wasteland, burn him a second time with gasoline, and bury him. Authorities say he'd claimed to stuff over 300 bodies into barrels of lye, then dumping some of the liquefied remains in a pit on a hillside compound in eastern Tijuana.
I'm in disbelief. This is crazy. Yo, how do you find the most devious ways to do this? Like, how?
After his arrest, investigators found about 14,000 remains buried in his ranch.
14,000?
The choice of name for this extremely violent execution method begins to make sense, seeing how the torture technique is centered around cooking victims. According to reports, when Santiago was being interrogated, he claimed to have tried to escape from his former boss, Efrain Perez, an ex-member of the Arellano Felix cartel or Tijuana cartel, but none of his attempts were successful. Lopez claimed to have been recruited while working on a farm in 1996, where senior members of the Arellano Felix cartel asked him to carry out an experiment with water and acid in a barrel. Lopez said he had no choice and he was forcibly recruited, as they threatened him with violence to carry out these acts. Whether or not that's true, no one knows, but the fact remains that he did this for many years.
To have 14,000 like bunch of bodies, that's more than King Von had. I'm like, they worse than King Von.
Until he was finally apprehended. In 2012, he was initially sentenced, ended only 10 years, and was eligible for release in April 2022, which angered a lot of families in Tijuana. However, on February 5th, 2024, his prison sentence was increased by an additional 30 years. The El Guizo method became a favored tool among high-ranking cartel leaders to kill their rivals and traitors. Its gruesome efficiency was unmatched, with victims bound by their hands and feet as to fit in an oil barrel more easily while still conscious. The chilling legacy of this method serves as a...
I bet there be some good scientists, like, bro, y'all doing this, bro, why y'all can't be some science teachers at this point, bro? Like, I bet it be... I know they have some good grades in science class, bro.
Dark reminder of the ruthlessness in the world. Food for the pets.
They often torture and kill their victims. They have fed some of their victims, dead and alive, to tigers belonging to the Chapitos.
Since the 80s, rare, dangerous, and exotic animals have been used in a way to show off insanely high levels of wealth. But over the years, cartel bosses have adopted another insane tradition. Just like Pablo kept hippopotamuses and other exotic creatures at his private compound, rare and dangerous pets are still a status symbol today for high-ranking members of the Mexican cartel, imitating the infamous Colombian drug lords of the 80s and 90s. It was a means to show off and send threats. As it looked like the more dangerous a cartel was, the more dangerous pets had to be found in their homes. Mexican authorities would later tell you that these animals weren't just for showing off. Sometimes cartels would throw their unfortunate victims in these enclosed areas with starving apex predators. In the most wicked way, the cartel would have their victims beg for their lives in fear just moments before being torn apart by these wild animals. And one of the people that employed the...
Well, how do you get all these lions like this? You got to go to, like, Africa to go get these animals in order. How do you know how much a lion costs? I'm pretty sure, like, more than a lamb truck. Like, that's a fucking lion, my nigga.
Use of this torture method was a cartel boss known as Heriberto Lascano. Born in poverty on Christmas Day in December 1974 in Hidalgo, Mexico, he joined the military at the age of 17, serving in the elite special forces, dedicated to fighting guerrillas and drug trafficking organizations.
Wait, fighting guerrillas? Wait, what the they fight gorillas? What? Wait, do the gorilla got like weapons too? Like what? Why is it okay?
He served in the army for 7 years and then deserted on March 27th, 1998.
Battle of the Apes, the Planet
when
of the
he was
Apes.
recruited by Ociel Cardenas Guillen and Arturo Guzman de Sena to join Los Zetas. Heriberto, aka Z3, and El Lasca was one of the most wanted Mexican drug lords of our time.
Really?
According to authorities, he was the master at torturing his victims. He became known for using this method known as La Paleta, and this would involve a victim being stripped naked and brutally beaten with a board.
Jesus Christ.
I don't... Wow. Okay.
Reports also say Lascano tied a man to a tree and severely beat him until he broke his legs. And then to top it off, he left him tied to that tree for about 3 days until he died. Lascano had a ranch with a lot of lions and tigers and was particularly known for killing his victims by feeding them to those wild animals. Although he didn't starve these animals, he would keep them hungry enough for when he had a victim for them to devour. He said he was fascinated by the way his pets tore apart their bodies. He enjoyed watching the process of torturing his victims and would laugh at their pain. Now, the general...
Oh, these niggas are evil. Oh my god. Wait, hold up, bro. Like, yo, they are some... There's some real demons. Like, do not mess with the Mexican cartel. Do not stay away from. I see why all the people from Mexico are trying to escape Mexico now. It makes a lot of sense.
The process was that he would force these people into a cage and allow an audience to view the proceedings. Unfortunately, he never got a taste of his own medicine, Instead, he was killed in a 2012 shootout with Mexican military officials.
Oh, okay.
Flaying. Summer of 2018, a video popped up online that shook Mexico, revealing a horrifying and unsettling scene. Filmed in the hills of La Union, near the border of Costa Grande and Tierra Caliente, it featured a gruesome murder of a father and son by members of a Mexican cartel. Two men were tied up, made to kneel on the ground, having their mouths gagged and their hands tied tightly. The captors questioned the older man, beating him with what looked like a large wooden stick. The violence inflicted upon him was unimaginably horrific. And just when you thought it couldn't get worse, the father was beheaded right in front of his son with a small knife that looked like a pen.
What the fuck? This is evil shit. Yo, this is evil shit. Like, bro, honestly.
The most heartbreaking scene in this video was the son's reaction after seeing his father die.
Dude.
The shock factor in his tears moved the whole nation. The fact that the father chose not to fight against his captors was somewhat shocking. It appeared as though he had accepted his fate, perhaps as a result from the trauma from previous beatings, or from being paralyzed by the severity of the situation.
Wow.
After they took out the father, the son had to go through a much longer and more agonizing ordeal. The captors would cruelly flay his chest with knives. During this gruesome act, the son remained conscious, drifting in and out of shock. The video shows just how far these cartels would go to ensure that
it's on YouTube. Ain't no way, bro.
Their operation ran smoothly. In 2010, Guzman, or El Chapo, made headlines after he recorded a video of himself using the flaying torture technique as he beheaded a member of a rival cartel, Hugo Hernandez. El Chapo, with a chainsaw, flayed Hernandez, and then he ordered his soldiers to stitch the cut-off skin on a ball to add to his warning intended for the Juarez cartel.
Boy, I thought the Mexican, I thought our gangs was worse. These niggas on something different. They on a different type of fuckery, bro. This is not a fuck. It's like, they just don't like. They on something else. They on something else, bro. It's like, they beef is way worse than our beefs. They doing the most, and it's.
Hernandez's torso was found in a plastic container, and the rest of his remains were left on the streets of Los Mochis as a chilling message to El Chapo's rivals. With their special knives, they would meticulously strip the skin from their victims, or resort to peeling their faces off with other sharp objects, amidst agonizing screams. The cartels have honed their proficiency in this barbaric practice, knowing how to keep victims alive for prolonged suffering, reserved for the most egregious offenders, like rival cartel members, double agents, and thieves. The sheer brutality of flaying someone just shows you these guys aren't messing around.
Yeah, they ain't messing around at all. Don't mess with these boys. These men, my fault.
Scream for their lives is way beyond us. Dermatologists have noted that the typical causes of death due to flaying are shock, critical loss of blood, or other bodily fluids, hypothermia, or infections. They stated,
"Stop it. Get some help."
That the actual death is estimated to occur from a few hours up to a few days after the flaying. If this isn't dying hard, we don't know what is.
I don't know. Can we take a break and just like process what's going on? The way how they offing people is ridiculous. And then they get in trouble.
In 2015, Texas law apprehended Marciano Chano Millan Vasquez, an alleged hitman for the Los Zetas cartel, involved in this 2013 kidnapping of a former drug trafficking associate. Now, this associate was testifying against Vasquez, claiming the cartel assassin took him to this undisclosed location where Vasquez was keeping his family of 3. In his words, when the hitman removed his blindfold, the drug associate saw a couple and their daughter standing near a flaming barrel. According to him, Vasquez and other members present forced the parents to watch as Vasquez dismembered their daughter with an axe. It's not only Vasquez. A lot of people in the cartel execute their victims through grievous acts of injecting them with either morphine, adrenaline, or heroin, which would affect their central nervous system and make them stay awake through the process, and then would make the use of heavy, sharp blades and sometimes even kitchen knives to chop off the victim's limbs completely.
It sounds like some video game shit, bro. I'm sorry to keep pausing, but it's
Throughout
like,
the torture,
I'm
these
trying to
members would avoid cutting close to
come back
vital
from this
organs to
evilness.
keep the victims in agonizing pain for much longer. The combination of blood loss, infections, and shock from extreme pain is the perfect torture cocktail to get people ready for the pearly gates. These poor souls have no choice but to give up whatever information they're withholding, and more often than not would die from the pain. It's a case of killing two birds with one stone, putting the victim through a slow and agonizing death as well as making the body disposal easier. In some cases, the body parts are left in public areas to serve as a message, threatening those who go against the cartel that put it there. A well-known example, October 2000.
Hey, man. I'm sorry.
Israel
You can't mess with them boys.
The cartel
Them
member
men.
wasn't
These
just
demons.
murdered, but was dismembered for killing the son of one of El Chapo's allies. When El Chapo got his hands on him, he had him tortured until he fell unconscious. But he had a doctor on standby to make sure he didn't just die too quickly. El Chapo ordered his men to brutalize him in all sorts of gruesome ways, which ended in the dismemberment of his limbs.
What, like, they stick
And
their
his
foot in his
remains
butt?
were
What?
into the Mexican city of Culiacan. On their torture shelf, dismemberment is that brutal tactic showcasing their sheer cruelty that is buried within these cartels. Beheading by chainsaw. In 2011,
Man. This is getting worse. I can't. Okay. It gets to a certain point. I just gonna chill. Like feel more, bro. This is wilding, bro.
Felix Garcia and his uncle Barnabas Castro were viciously beheaded. Their demise is one of the first executions by the cartel uploaded for the world to see. Someone in a ski mask carrying a chainsaw, positioning the moving blade to their neck, and you can already guess what's coming.
Yeah, I'm skipping that one. That one looks wild. Okay.
Sinaloa
Fall.
Barnabas Castro were viciously beheaded.
Yeah.
The notorious Sinaloa cartel made the
Skipping
big
that.
mistake of stealing from drug lords. And because of this, they paid the ultimate price with their lives. But this isn't the only gruesome tale we can think of. In August 2008, notorious cartel boss Moses Escamilla May was arrested shortly after he was alleged to have beheaded 12 people in Yucatan, Mexico. These are just a couple of examples, and everyone in and around Mexico knows that getting involved with these cartels is like signing a death sentence. How many movies do you need to see that glorify these tales?
Jesus Christ.
In September
So do they be like fighting like this, like in the streets in Mexico? Like, cause this is what the police, like what the government, like why is they still walking around like this? It's like how they that powerful to like it's different sets of cartels.
2011, the
At this
Mexican
point, it's like-
police found 5 decomposing heads left in a sack outside of a primary school in Acapulco. Dozens of schools went on strike over security concerns as violence ramped up in the region. 11 years later, on the other side of the country, 5 more decapitated heads were found in an ice cooler in Tamaulipas. These tactics aren't limited to some cartels or regions, but have found
Nah, this is
application all
wild,
across
bro.
Mexico for years.
You got a
They
whole-
wouldn't only cut off the head
like
of rival
AK?
cartel members, they would also attack Mexican journalists who've been critical of their activities,
Okay.
sending a clear message to anyone else who dared to speak out against them. A brutal
Shit, I ain't
twist to this
speaking out.
practice
Hey, y'all got
is
it, gang.
sometimes these beheadings are intertwined with the group's belief system, performed ritually to fulfill religious or spiritual demands.
Wait a minute, is they still having like they still doing like the religion they was doing like people back in the day? You know, in the time when the sun god and all that, is they still like
What?
doing that type of stuff, or like is that they souls are still? I don't know. I'm I'm on something else. I'm on some anime shit. I don't know. I'm sorry.
Cannibalism.
eating
Cannibalism
them?
within the narco world has been an open secret in recent years. The CJ&G, led by Cervantes or El Mencho, has hit the headlines due to these accusations of cannibalism. The CJ&G has become one of the dominant cartels in the country, operating in at least 35 states across Mexico and Puerto Rico. The cartels need to ensure that their recruits can handle these increasing levels of violence mentally. They have to suppress their empathy for those they kill or torture and forget that they too are human beings. So, cannibalism was used as a form of training for recruits to desensitize them to violence and breed fearlessness within them.
So they eat their opponents? Man.
These shocking public displays of aggression are used to threaten rival groups and show dominance. as part of an arsenal of techniques, including
animals.
demonstrating new weapons and military technologies owned by the group. They're taught how to sever fingers and toes, the cartel's favorite torture technique for interrogating rival gangs. During the training process, recruits have to eat dismembered fingers, and upon passing this trial, they progress to larger body parts.
What do you mean by that?
They eat in them people, bro. One more, man. This is enough, bro. I can't. This is some demonic. How this on YouTube? Yo. One more, bro.
Anyone vomited during this ordeal, instructors would retrieve those regurgitated body parts from the ground and force the individual to ingest them again. Furthermore, these recruits also had to sleep beside deceased bodies at night, aiming to desensitize them to death. Experts suggest that this vicious initiation ritual instilled a warped sense of loyalty to the cartel by dismantling their sense of self-identity.
So they basically turned them to the animals. Basically turned them to real King Bonds. Yo, man. Oh, no. They just have no... They become soulless at this point. Like... Some animals.
A well-known example is Miguel Trevino Morales,
this last
known
one, bro.
as Z40, the former leader of the
Z40?
Zetas. And Miguel had a gruesome habit of consuming the hearts of his victims. He did
This sounds like some... Yo, some...
this as a spiritual ritual, believing it would grant him invincibility against his enemies and authorities. He also did this as a form of warning to rival cartel members. According to a former hitman, Miguel wouldn't only eat these body parts, he would sometimes force other victims to partake in this cruel tradition.
What?
Yeah, we done. I can't. Yo, we done. If y'all want to watch this whole thing by yourself, Mexican Cartels, you know, right here. We done. 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 Done. Hey, yo, don't mess with the cartels. We just know that we done. If you want to watch the whole thing by yourself, go to this channel, Crime Destiny, and this is the video, bro. I can't. Yo, I can't. This is wilding.